I'm Matthew Woods, host of Leading Out of the Woods, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you are listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Coming up on episode 203 of the House of EdTech podcast, I've got a very special guest in my house. Derek Larson is in the House of EdTech, and we're going to do something new. I recently did a Twitter space following up on episode 201 about school podcast clubs and networks, and I'm going to run that Twitter space back for you since you might have missed it. Let's strike up the band. Welcome to the House of EdTech. My name is Chris Nesi. The House of EdTech launched in 2014, giving me the opportunity to speak with teachers, leaders, and creators so you can more effectively integrate technology, strengthen your pedagogy, and have more confidence in your classroom and school so you can make an impact. Get involved with the podcast by visiting my website, chrisnesi.com. Using technology isn't difficult, and this is where it begins. This is the House of EdTech. And as I just said a minute ago, a little bit of a different flavor episode today. I did a Twitter space back on June 2nd, 2022, and that was a follow-up to my episode on school podcast clubs and networks. And I had a great live conversation via Twitter spaces, and there were a number of awesome people who were able to attend that Twitter space live and engage and talk and ask questions and connect. And that is why I enjoy doing stuff live and doing things like Twitter spaces, which I am going to be doing more of. So let me tell you in this episode for the first time that I'm going to be doing a Twitter space coming up on June 23rd, 2022. It'll be at 10 p.m. Eastern. And this Twitter space is going to be a live follow-up to episode 202, just this last episode, where I had a great conversation with Harry and Anna from Mission Encodable, where we talked about what they're doing to promote coding in education. And again, their website is Mission Encodable. But I want you to come out on June 23rd, 2022, if you can, 10 p.m. Eastern, and let's talk about coding in the classroom and the things that you are doing that are awesome with coding in the classroom. Or who knows where the conversation may take us. If you're listening to this after June 23rd, I'm so sorry. You missed another Twitter space. But don't worry, I'm going to do more of them. But hopefully, you're going to join us on June 23rd. Now, coming up before I share a replay of that June 2nd Twitter space, as I'm recording this is Saturday, June 18th. Yesterday, Derek Larson, former guest of the podcast, and if you recall, he hosted the House of EdTech for a stint of episodes back last school year, at the start of last school year, and he is traveling all around the country with his family, and he made one stop in New Jersey, and it was to come to my house. So I couldn't not take out the podcast equipment. So I set up a mixer and microphones at my dining room table. And, well, here is the product of me setting up microphones at my dining room table with Derek Larson in my house. All right, I do not have an EdTech thought in this episode, but I have something even more special for you. I'm here in the House of EdTech, as I normally am, but I'm in Studio C, which is my dining room, and I am joined in my dining room. We are embracing right now. Oh. Derek Larson is in my house.
In the flesh, Chris. In the actual House of EdTech. Physical space. Pretty awesome.
Did it meet your expectations?
Oh, it blew my expectations away, folks. The behind the scenes is awesome. If you can get an invitation, you take it up.
It's a special program that I do now. You can take a tour of the House of EdTech and sit at my dining room table and record EdTech thoughts with me, I guess.
That's right. That's how we do it. That's how he rolls.
So it's been a while since you've been on the show.
It has been. It's been a hot minute. That's for sure.
But that's because you're like jet setting. Well, drive setting all around the country. You've got, his whole family is here at my house. It is awesome. He's got an awesome wife, 3 awesome children.
We are on what is called the Summer of Crazy. It's a 7-week road trip, family-style road trip across the U.S., literally from Utah to the East Coast, up and down, all the things.
Is your family having more success than the Griswolds on their way to Wally World?
Yes, much greater success. No one has lost anything. No cars have been injured. We're pretty good.
No dogs lost because we forgot to put them in?
No dogs. No dogs at all. In fact, Grandma has my son's hamster, taking care of the hamster, loving every minute.
Awesome. So, Derek, it has been a hot minute. What are you currently doing in education?
So I'm still a librarian, but I'm out of middle school. I was at an intermediate, which in my district is 6-7. Now I'm at a middle school, which is 8-9, and I'm just loving life. I'm just working with teachers, working with kids, trying to get things moving again after our little kind of pit stop of the 2020 wildness.
2020 wildness. Crazy, right?
Yes, absolutely.
What is your takeaway after maybe this school year? Like, you're in Utah, so how is your school year?
So the school year was a lot more normal. Not 100% by any means, but we're getting there. I feel like we're kind of, as I've now been over the East Coast, I feel like I see a lot more of the pandemic kind of still lingering here. That's not to say it's not gone by any means, but it's still around. It's part of life. And so I feel like where we're at in Utah, in southern Utah, it's a lot less. And so we're kind of back to rolling as we were before, which is good. There's still some struggles with kids. We've got some kids that just have not fully come back to it. And so they're still trying to figure out, how do I get myself back into school and do things normally? And so the hardest thing is, like, kids start doing work, which I know wasn't happening before, and it's not happening now, but I feel like it's even less now than it was before because they unfortunately gotten some bad habits. I think some of these kids that like, oh, it doesn't matter what I do, I'm still going to pass. They're going to pass me.
What, kids developing bad habits?
I know, seriously.
I've never heard of that.
What can you say, right? No, things are pretty good. Overall, I think we're on the right direction, if nothing else.
Now, I also noticed since the last time we saw each other, you've embraced the top down.
That's
on
right.
Top. So
what can I say? Well, I got tired of all the hair mess. I just shaved the head. It's all there. Beard's still going strong, so that's good. I got my hair on the chin, not my head.
He looks fine. Make sure you check out the Instagram at House of EdTech because we'll have some photos here with me and Derek.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you did come into my house wearing a Marvel T-shirt. What's up with this?
Hey, I'm a Marvel man, Chris. You knew that. You knew who I was. My wife even wore a Marvel shirt, which is quite funny. That's not even planned. It was just we took our luggage and put it into a smaller suitcase for this mini trip, and it was wild.
Mrs. Larson, why are you wearing a Marvel shirt in my house? I've seen all the movies and...
Honestly, this shopping for... I'm not like a diehard of really any of them, but Derek loves all of it. And I just wanted T-shirts that were long enough to wear with my shorts and like that wouldn't shrink in the dryer. And I bought pretty much anything I could find.
And I do love that one.
Clutch.
That's awesome.
Well, I'll let her stay, folks. She can stay, and I'm going to feed them. It's going to be good.
I will say, yesterday I was wearing my He-Man Funko shirt, and the day before that I had my Marvel Funko shirt. This is just the one that was clean that hadn't worn yet, so... You get the old school Marvel Avengers.
I appreciate that. You wore a clean shirt to my house.
That's how I do. We like to make sure we're presentable in the house.
I even showered before you got here.
I can smell it. It's fantastic.
So aside from this trip that you're on for another 4 months.
It feels like that, yes.
What is in the future for you? What are you looking forward to next school year? Now, granted, I know you're not thinking a lot about school at this point, but... What are you looking forward to professionally?
So what I'm hoping next year, I'm actually gotten myself a little bit involved with a few organizations in Utah. One is called the Children's Literature Association of Utah, and they run the Beehive Book Award, which is like the state book award. And so I've been a participant on committees for a couple of years, helping select books with graphic novels specifically, and then recently, last year, with young adult. This year I've actually accepted that I'm taking the lead on the graphic novel committee. So I'll be leading that out this next year and then also helping with the board as they're in a little bit of a growth situation where we're going to be coordinating our efforts with Utah State Library for the awards specifically to help give them a little more notoriety, if you will. And then from there, just kind of continue pushing and helping push literature. I mean, we're still in the midst of hatred towards librarians, I think, in some places. Apparently, a lot of people have pitchforks ready. And as a librarian, I'm not okay with that.
For things you wouldn't think they'd get their pitchforks ready for.
Exactly. So it's just one of those things where I'm trying to really help embrace the library community in my state of Utah. So, like I said, I'll be working with CLAW. It's awesome. Their initials are CLAW, C-L-A-U. So CLAW, which is fantastic with Beehive Books and kind of helping libraries in general. And then I'm looking forward to kind of working with my teachers more. You know, we've had a couple teachers that have retired and some different things, some changes going on. And so we're getting some more teachers in the building. Kind of get some good connections with them and hopefully work with the language arts department a little bit more. So I'm excited to do some of that kind of stuff professionally.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, I'm excited that I get to hear this and I'm staring right at you.
That's right. I know.
It's a good feeling.
It's a crazy feeling right here, man. I got the beach behind you and a nice little wave pictures. It's just, I feel like I'm in a beach. The dining room of EdTech has got the beachy feel, which is fabulous.
The dining room of EdTech. That's what I should have called it.
Studio C works too.
Studio C works is good. I think his room is Studio B.
There you go.
But I mean, as we're sitting here, you know, for those who maybe don't pay attention, I do the joke podcast with my son, and Derek has his son here as well, who is roughly Miles'
about 9.
The same age.
Yeah.
Two young whippersnappers.
Yes.
They're going to record some jokes. And Derek, I want to thank you for coming to the House of EdTech. I'm glad this worked out.
I'm going to thank you for being a gracious host and bringing 5 crazy bodies from Utah in.
And I haven't even done anything yet. I basically had him come in, showed him the studio, and took out some other stuff and said, hey, let's record.
There we go. That's it. That's all you got to do.
All right. Derek, thank you once again for being here on the House of EdTech.
Happy to be here, Chris. Thanks for letting me.
It was obviously great to have Derek here and meet his whole family, his wonderful wife, his 3 wonderful children. And we got to break bread and have hot dogs, hamburgers, macaroni salad. It was a great time. And if you're ever going to be in New Jersey and you want to hang out with me, please reach out. I would love to invite you over to my home and feed you. So, yeah, good time. Now, let's get into the replay of my Twitter space from June 2nd, 2022. And again, this is a follow-up to episode 201, which was all about school podcast clubs and school podcast networks. Let's go. All right. We are live, I'm pretty sure. There we go. What's up, Kevin? How you doing? Good to see you here. We're playing with Twitter Spaces, which is going to be a ton of fun if you've never done that. And the overall piece of the conversation is going to be talking about podcasting in education. What is up, Katrina? Too long. Kevin, I see you have requested. I'm going to honor that request, and I'm going to let you come on up. Let's go. Kevin, you're live. If you've done
there I go. I got you unmuted. So looking forward to hearing about podcasting, a little inspired of maybe starting a school podcast. So looking to pick your brain tonight.
Please pick away. I mean, I don't know if you heard the latest episode of House of EdTech, episode 201, but I shared my story since January, where at my high school, which I believe you've been to, we started a podcast club and a network, and I am over my head in podcasting, I guess now.
Yeah, it's on my list. I did mark that to give it a listen. And then I saw this tonight, so I jumped on. Nice.
So what do you want to know? Questions make the world go round.
So my biggest thing, like we have our TV production program, and I do a lot of videos for them and helping them out, and getting me on crazy videos they're trying to do. And I'm obsessed with one hit, one take, let's get it right. So I do worry about the editing piece of these podcasts, and can I just do one takes and go forward with it and not have it be perfect?
I think you definitely can. For example, I do now a live morning show with a couple of kids. I have sophomores.
That's cool.
And we're live every school day for 15 minutes. even before school starts. And, we do it live, and there is no editing. They've had no previous training other than coming in every day since January 4th. And, it's live. And then it goes out and it's on, we live stream it. It's on YouTube. It's going out to Spotify and Google Podcasts for people that don't watch live. And we get that, time shifted for the school announcements and things. But, I always say just hit record, but just go live.
Yeah, what I use like StreamYard. I know I used that during the pandemic with some of the stuff we were trying to do.
Yeah, what we're doing, so we do the live stream through StreamYard, so that puts it out to a YouTube channel that for the network for the school. And then while we're live streaming, I'm also recording it locally, and then I just run that through Audacity just to kind of take the raw recording to make it the MP3 file, and then we're pushing it out to Anchor, which, I mean, me, I'm not a huge fan of Anchor in a lot of situations, but with no budget, it works, and
Right.
we get it out where it needs to go.
Okay.
Man, I wasn't even looking. Hello to Tisha and Alex and Dave and Michael and Pernell. We're talking Twitter Spaces and podcasting in schools. If you're not familiar with me, I'm the host of the House of EdTech podcast. And in my last episode, I talked about starting a school podcast club or a school podcast network. And I also talked about using Twitter Spaces as an educator. So Kevin was just asking me some questions that he's interested to do some of this at his school. So if you have questions about podcasting at your school, I am one voice and I have a lot of opinions, and I'm happy to share and answer questions, and we can experiment with Twitter Spaces if you've never been on this platform for this purpose before. Maybe you've listened, but please feel free to request to speak and participate. And, we'll go with this for maybe an hour or so at least. But as I always say, the content only needs to be as long as it needs to be. And, the more questions you have, the more fun we can have. And if you're enjoying the conversation, share it with a tweet. You have the options here in Twitter Spaces to, do reactions with emoji. So if you want to raise your hand, feel free to request. We're just live. You let me know where you're coming to us from. I know we got some Jersey people in here. We got some Texas. Aaron, I think, is in Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken.
So, Chris, real quick, when you're doing at school, are you, requesting people to jump on the podcast? Are you seeking out individuals? You doing a balance of teachers and students as guests?
So it's a little bit of both. So for the morning show that we do, I have a nice group of at least two of the same kids who come in every day. And there's another couple of students who, when they can get in early, they do come in. And then they are the hosts of the show. I try to just push the buttons and kind of make it work. And we theme our days. So we do have guests come in. We do something called Maestro Monday, where we're having teachers come in. Sometimes it's pre-recorded. Sometimes, we got some teachers who come in early, and they come in and they're part of the 15 minutes. And we do, a 6 or 7 minute conversation where I let the students, or I encourage them to, interview that administrator or that teacher who comes in, so we can kind of get to know the people who are in our building, and maybe what they teach, why they got into teaching, what they do outside of, the school when they're not there. So we try to make it fun and valuable. So yeah, we're trying to bring in as many voices as possible. What's up, Tim?
Are the kids mostly the interviewers?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if I see that they're kind of struggling to come up with a question, I'll jump in and kind of give another prompt or ask a question, and then that usually, resparks them and gets them going again. But they have some common questions that they will ask a staff member that comes in. Like one thing we try to have them that they will ask, like they'll do their final question of, what, you impart wisdom on your students in your classes every day, but now you've got the whole school as the audience. What advice do you have for everybody? So we try to finish up with something positive like that.
Right. Yeah, I think I have to model it a bit in the beginning for them and get them comfortable in the space and confident to take this on and run with it. I know I have one kid who loves the Mets, and I think he would love like a Mets little section to to get a chance to speak with about the Mets on a daily basis. He started his own little podcast himself, so I think this would be a way to help him promote it too.
Oh, definitely. I got one young man. I initially said, "Hey, let's make the weather a part of what we do." And now he has a ball coming in. He has fun. Like he does the weather. And then he's into politics and history. But yeah, you'll be amazed that when you get kids who are interested and curious, what will be brought out of them, and then just give them that space to share what they're interested in. And if it works out, I mean, encourage the kid, hey, start your own Mets podcast. Or you might have even said that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's trying to. Yeah, he definitely. I encouraged him to. So
nice. Just empower them, right?
Yep, totally. He's a big fan of one of the guys on WFAN at night, and he calls into him, and they've had some good dialogue back and forth. So,
is he calling McPherson?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep, McPherson gave him a shout out because he wrote him a letter, and there was a little back and forth on Twitter with the two of them. So it was cool.
Nice. I actually, side note, I used a personal day this past Friday for Memorial Day weekend, and I went to DJ's in Belmar where the fan was they were live all day.
Oh, right, yes.
And
the storms came in, I heard, right?
Yes. So, I mean, I had left before that, but I stood there for a good 6 hours watching the radio live. I'm such a loser. But I did get to, I got to meet Keith. I got to shake his hand. So yeah, good dude. Definitely happy to be there and doing his thing.
That's cool.
Speaking of empowering, Michael requested, so I invited Michael up. So Michael, good evening. How are you? Welcome to Twitter Spaces.
Hey, I'm doing good. This is my first time jumping into Spaces, so excited that I saw it pop up. So I jumped in when you were talking about, you've got your morning show, and I have been dabbling very shallowly into podcasting and things like that, and audio recordings. What do you got to tell me to just do it? I mean, I know I got to just kind of say, all right, screw it. I'm going to jump in. We're going to make lots of mistakes, but that's part of the learning process. But there's got to be a reason for me to start doing this. And I just can't figure it out yet.
That's the piece that has to come from you, because my little motto is, you're saying just do it. I tell people just hit record, right? You just need to start. And something I picked up along the way in 8 years of podcasting is you don't have to be great to start, but if you want to get great, you have to start. So you got to take your lumps, and you're going to grow as you go. In all honesty, I've done 200 episodes, and I apologize for the first 199. So you're always going to be learning something and tweaking, and hopefully trying to grow with it. But when it comes to what you want to talk about, that truly has to come from within. There's no inspirational thing that I or anyone else could say unless you know your why and what you want to talk about.
Other than just do it. Just do it. Hit record.
And actually, you know what, Mike? Here's one thing I can say. You just hit record. That doesn't mean you have to let anybody listen to it. You can practice, and you can find your workflow and kind of figure out what your rhythm is and find your voice literally before you kind of put it out to the world. But don't spend too much time planning the plan about the plan to work the plan as you make the plan.
I definitely find that, the more planning that goes into anything, the worse the product is. It's the spontaneity, it's the serendipity of the moment, which is kind of what I was going to get to next. Is in terms of your programming, how much of it, and you hit on it a little bit, but how much of it is kind of not scripted, but you've kind of got a feel of the flow?
Well, there was planning. As before we launched in January, I had a few meetings in December to gather interest and see what students would be interested in being a part of a podcast club. Without them, there would be nothing. I wouldn't just be doing this to be Mr. Nesi doing a show at the high school that he teaches at. So it's because of the students that this all exists first and foremost. And then from talking with them, I was able to share with them some of what I've learned from creating my own stuff. So we talked about, what is this 15-minute show going to look like? I recommended we come up with a theme for each day of the week. And then I said, but now you 5 or 6 people, you come up with, what are we going to do every Monday? What are we going to do every Tuesday? Besides tell kids what club is meeting today and in what room, or, what did the basketball team or the soccer team do the night before? What do we want to do? And then we just kind of came up with a flow for the show. And it was a little rough at first because I was working with kids who had no experience. So, like Kevin mentioned before, I modeled it, right, based on being a podcaster and content creator. And by giving them those examples, they developed their own voices. Like I said, I got the kid who does the weather. Some of the other themes we do, we have deep thought. We have Thoughtful Thursday, where I have another teacher who is just like, hey, I want to give you a recording. And it's kind of like the old Jack Handy skits from SNL, the deep thoughts. So he does his own. He makes them up. They're pretty funny. And sometimes they make us think. Sometimes they make us laugh. But then my student host will kind of riff on whatever this teacher shared and kind of pre-recorded and sent us. So, I mean, it's all unique, right?
You had mentioned, you're going live with StreamYard and it's broadcasting through YouTube. So your podcast essentially is video, right? If I just want to do audio, I have an Anchor account, and I've got an Anchor podcast that I haven't used very much, but give some suggestions on the platform to kind of share it with the world.
Sure. So while we do live stream it, I consider it, and the kids understand, that we're doing audio first. The video component is more voyeuristic, where if somebody tunes in to the YouTube, which is on our school homepage, they can watch us do the show. But we're not doing things that are overly visual for people to see. It's, if you've ever seen a radio station that does a live stream, their primary goal is to do the audio first. You just get to see them doing it. Before I went live with YouTube, we were doing live audio through Spreaker, Spreaker, Spreaker.com. And with their free account even, which we were using, we were able to live stream for 15 minutes per day, which is why the show is 15 minutes, because we were initially constrained to that. Then once I integrated StreamYard into it and going live on video, I abandoned the audio only stream. And then StreamYard, I can live stream for a few hours a month for free. But that 15 minutes I do per day, some of our shows have been 16 minutes, 17 minutes. So we've been able to go over and still comfortably produce this audio recording, which again, in addition to streaming the video, I'm recording the audio, which is then what I work with. So the video is just like a cherry or sprinkles on a sundae.
Appreciate it.
No problem. Hello, Larson and Sherry. Doug, welcome. Mark, we're talking, if you've never been on Twitter Spaces, that is one purpose of this. Me doing this is because I think more teachers should be taking advantage of this because, hey, audio is friendly. It's not as complicated as video. And in my last episode of the House of EdTech, which is my podcast that I've been doing for 8 years, I talked about how you can start a podcast club or a podcast network for your school or your district. So that's kind of the things that we're talking about tonight. So if you've got questions, I certainly have things I can share and recommendations I can make. So feel free to request to speak. Aaron has requested, and I have tweeted at Aaron, and now I'm going to get to speak to Aaron. What's up?
There we go. Hi, Chris.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing well this fine Thursday evening.
Yes, I just sent storms your way, so you should be getting them shortly if you haven't gotten them
Thank
already.
you. My Little League games were canceled tonight. I appreciate
You're welcome. So yes, I am in Pennsylvania, just across the bridge, so to speak. But so my question is, I want to know, what have you done that has not worked or has gone wrong, or that you're like, I don't want to do this in podcasting again?
For me or with the kids?
With the kids.
With the kids. I initially, and I'll be honest and transparent, I think in the month of January when we started, I pushed them a little too hard to be a little more professional. And I initially lost sight of the fact that they're sophomores in high school who have never done this. And I needed to teach more than I had high expectations. So I had to adjust my expectations and my approach. And again, it wasn't detrimental. But I'm just trying to be honest that I tried to get more out of them than I initially was able to. What I get out of these kids now here in, April, May, and now June, I mean, I talk about it all the time when we stop recording or we stop being live each day. I'm nothing but complimentary towards them, which I've been the whole time, but they've really grown. And, now we're kind of getting sad that we're almost at summer and we've got to wait, till September to come back and start doing stuff again. But to answer your question, that was something that didn't work. My initial approach and how I don't want to say I mistreated them, but the standards to which I was trying to hold them to didn't work right away.
Right. Understandable. That's definitely helpful.
And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, where do you do this daily with the kids?
So when the district came to me, because I had done this a couple of years ago with a Donors Choose grant that I got to get some microphones and some recording hardware. So I was initially, before pandemic, doing stuff out of my classroom during our homeroom. Then when they came to me in December of last year, they said, what space do you need? So I found they were able to give me a couple of options, and I chose a textbook room, a closet, literally near my classroom that I cleaned. I took all the books out. I took all the shelving out. So we're literally in an old textbook room that is probably maybe 11 by 11. So it looks much bigger in the video if you check it out. But it was literally a textbook closet that is now got a desk and our microphones, and that's the kind of the space we're in. And then with a little bit of treatment, they were willing to take my wish list. And the supervisor who I worked with said, give me your wish list. I'll see what I can get now, but there might be things you have to wait for until September. So I gave her my wish list, and by the grace of the powers that be, everything on my wish was in my hands by January 15th. So we got some foam panels. So it's a treated space. It doesn't sound bad. We've got the dynamic microphones. So it's as pro a setup as I was able to create, which is the experience I wanted to create for the kids.
If you're willing, please share that wish list with me.
Absolutely. I will, of course.
I know a guy who can maybe make that wish come true. So,
of course. But it wasn't like bank breaking stuff. I mean, again, the resources, we know that they're precious and few in education. So, I mean, I didn't give them an NPR radio station wish list of gear. So it worked out. Freddie, I see your icon. Sherry, I see your icon. We're talking podcasting in schools, clubs, or podcast network in your school or your district. So I hate doing the reset, and Tisha knows how I feel about that. But the last episode of House of EdTech, I talked about this. And the other big thing I talked about in the episode was, as educators, we should be doing more on Twitter Spaces and having conversations. So if you've never been on Twitter Spaces or spoken, please feel free to make a request, and I'll be happy to bring you in. Oh, Tisha's going to yell at me. Here we go. Tisha from Texas, you're live. What's up? Tisha going once.
Hey, this is my very first time, Chris. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and so can everybody else.
I don't know that I have a whole lot of value to add, but it's my very first time being on Twitter Spaces, and I took your advice to just take the risk. And somebody asked, how do you get started, or how do you know the why? I think when you feel uncomfortable, that's when you know you should move forward, because it grows you and it grows your students. And so just being on here, Chris, I saw you and I thought, I'm going to follow you because you're a great leader, a great podcast leader. And I thought my first Twitter space could be here with all of you. But as you know, podcasting with students is a huge passion of mine. And I started a podcast with my students during the pandemic that actually went really, really well until I moved into my role at Wakelet as digital learning specialist. So I have a blog. I'll tweet that out so all of you can have that, but I have lots of resources that I can share. And I just want to say kudos to all of you for taking a chance with your students. It really grew my students in a way that I didn't expect. And again, it was all because I was taking that risk for them. So that's what I have to share.
Well, I'm going to be a good podcast host. And since you said you did this pandemic with your students, what was your experience like? What are some things you learned, even though it was during the pandemic? What did you learn, or what was the experience like for your kids who were creating a podcast with you?
Well, I think the first thing I learned is that I needed to give up perfection. I am a perfectionist just by nature. And so I don't like to put things out there that I don't feel are perfect. And the truth is, it was never going to be perfect. And so my kids taught me that. But I would say pre planning is really important. Having a structure, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. We had a Google Doc that I put together for their planning purposes, and they went in and filled it in. So it was very student led. They wrote the script. They told me what to say. That is part of my advice, is to kind of let them lead, even though we like to have control. It worked out so much better because they took ownership of that. Once I got over the fact that things weren't perfect, we had mic issues. I didn't have a studio. I for my classroom, I think using a ball mic until I met Chris Nesi, and he told me to get a better mic. And so once there are always hiccups. We recorded a whole podcast once and the audio didn't record, so we had to go back and do that. And when you're on a time crunch, getting students together before school or after school or during that class period, it is difficult. But I think that grew all of us, kind of watching it fail, if you will. I taught a lot of design thinking. So that mindset was really instilled in my students, and in myself. And so we just, we gave ourselves grace. And I think that's really my biggest set of advice, is to give yourself grace. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you're teaching design thinking and that entire concept, it's always going back to the drawing board. So it's a continuous cycle of improvement all the time.
Oh, absolutely. And to speak to your point about, not having to be perfect to do stuff, if I waited for things to be perfect, I would have never left my house ever in my entire life, right? I would just stay at home where it's safe. So
yes. And I'll say all of that really prepared me truly for working in my role at Wakelet, because now, as you know, Chris, I do webinars and podcasts almost weekly, sometimes daily. And the truth is, I just keep learning. And that's really what this is all about for us as educators, to model that to our students or our colleagues, our administrators, and even our parents.
absolutely. I mean, that's one of the biggest benefits of this is, the fact that it becomes a part, or it can become a part of your school community, which goes beyond the walls of the school. For example, one of the kids who is the host with me in the morning, his mom tunes in every morning and is commenting on the YouTube videos. And, it's just super nice that we're starting to connect. I mean, we have people who listen, they tune in live, and this is just the morning piece. I can share a story about what we do in the afternoon on Tuesday, which is we do like a drive time show, which the Spark Notes version of it is, I have a young lady in one of my classes. I don't know that I heard 10 words from her before January. And then we started this, and she came to me and she was like, "Hey, Mr. Nesi, what is this podcast club? I'm curious." And she happened to ask me that on a Tuesday. And I said, "Why don't you come by after school today and check it out?" So she came by after school. She had her boyfriend with her and another friend. And I said, "Let's go in the studio. I'll show it to you." And I said, "Let's turn the stuff on and here, go ahead, talk." And she lit up. Her boyfriend, her friend, they talked about movies, music, um, anime, stuff that honestly I have no interest in, some of the things, but they talked, and she lit up the room. And now since like February, she comes in, she does this afternoon show, and it's been fantastic. The microphone literally gave her a voice. So you never know who you're gonna get out of the woodwork. Something I'm working on now is I'd like to expand beyond the morning show and this drive time. Starting in the fall, I want to add sports broadcasting to the club. And now I'm trying to promote and garner interest for kids who are interested in sports broadcasting, whether they're passionate about soccer or football or tennis. We'll figure out a way to do audio streams or video streams and get these kids who are interested in sports and creating content to have a place in a space.
So, Chris, if you get that up and running and I get my Mets fanatic guy, We can do a combo podcast with two schools connecting.
That's what I'm talking about, Kevin. I love it. That's what I'm hoping that, from putting out this episode, that there's got to be other people doing this that I want to connect with and get these kids talking to each other. They also just started an esports team at my school, and I've been talking with those advisors and, how can we live stream the esports and, get these kids. I in my promo for sports in the fall, I'm like, hey, if you're interested in talking about football or soccer or, our esports fall team, again, there are kids who want to talk. So, I mean, we all deal with it in our schools. There are kids who don't shut up. Let's put a microphone in front of them and, harness that power.
Right. For the YouTube, did you set up your own YouTube channel, or are you just using a school account?
Well, here's my big tip. When I initially set this all up, I was using my school email to set up StreamYard, and I had already had a YouTube channel set up on my school account that I was using during the pandemic, and some tutorials and things. So what I wound up asking for, and they gave it to me, was another Gmail account just for this club, and then I was able to kind of transfer everything over to this email, so that way, if one day I'm not working there, I retire, whatever the case may be, it's not all tied to my email, which might not always exist. So if anybody's thinking about doing this, go to your technology people. What does it take to set up another email account? Set up an email for the advisor of this club or a podcast network, and it provides a little ability and a little more access. So I hope that answers that question.
So, Chris, backtracking just a tiny little bit, talking about esports. My coworker runs the entire esports for the state of Pennsylvania. I'd love to touch base with you about maybe bringing your podcast and maybe esports to one of our conferences.
I'm down. Let's do it.
Awesome. I'll DM you.
Sweet. Okay, we got a couple more requests here. I'm going to go. I see Freddie and Sherry. I am polite and a gentleman. I'm going to go ladies first. So hold on one second, Freddie. Whoop. Clicking the phone. Requests. Sherry, happy Thursday. You are live. What's up? I am more patient than the host on a sports call, but Sherry is looking for the unmute button in the bottom left-hand corner.
Oh, I sure am. Here I am talking away. Okay, so first thing I said was, Tish, I'm up in Berks County, so let's get together sometime. But Chris, thank you. It's great to be here, and I am so excited that you are teaching me a little bit about Twitter Spaces this evening, because I've been on Clubhouse. That's how you and I met, a year and a half ago?
Yes.
And I have been flirting with this idea of podcast, and I'm really listening tonight on some of the things that you're doing. Currently, I'm not working with kids directly. I'm working with teachers. But one of the things that I've been trying to figure out is the best way to merge all this technology together. Have you ever done a thing with StreamYard where you're doing, do they let you do Twitter Space through and StreamYard at the same time, since one's audio, one is video? How are you able to go live in all the platforms at one time? Is it through StreamYard, or can't you do that? That, I guess, is one of my first questions. And then I did want to share another app that you may or may not know about. So let me get the answer to the first one, and then I'll share about the other app that I wanted to share with you tonight.
Okay, so for your first question, StreamYard would let you stream, or does let you stream, to multiple destinations. But when you're using StreamYard for free, you can only stream to one place. So before I had the YouTube channel, I was streaming. I set up a Twitter account for the network at my school, and we were just streaming it out to Twitter as audio. So not Twitter Spaces, just, you'd get a tweet almost through what it used to be. It used to be Periscope.
Oh, okay.
But so if you're paying for StreamYard, their basic plan would let you live stream to 3 destinations. So if you were paying for it, you could go to YouTube and Twitter at the same time. If I wanted to do a live stream to YouTube and Twitter Spaces, I would need to connect my phone or, my or whatever I'm being able to access Twitter Spaces to a mixer. So I could do it because the hardware in my studio, we have a Tascam Mixcast 4, which is letting us connect 4 microphones to this one physical piece of hardware, which then connects to my laptop, which then sends all the audio out to where we're going on StreamYard. I could also connect my phone to that, but the cell service in my studio is horrendous. So that viable option for me. But if you've got good cell service and the right hardware, you could go to multiple destinations at the same time for sure.
Thank you. I knew there had to be a device and I'm missing that device. So that task cam, I think is what you said.
Yes.
All right.
The other option, and I don't have one at school, is the Rodecaster Pro, which is a very similar device. You can connect 4 microphones. You've got all the inputs connected to your computer, and you could do what we're talking about for sure.
Is the Rodecaster something that's portable?
They are both portable.
They're both portable? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things that you and I have talked about in the past is that I want to start a podcast, and some of the things that I want to do is on the road interviews and stuff like that. So I was trying to figure out the best devices to create that good connection on the podcast. So I thought that Rodecaster Pro was what my son was talking about. So thank you for the confirmation on that.
Hold on, wait, real quick, Sherry. The other
Sure.
option, if you want to do stuff on the road while the Tascam and the Rodecast and the Rode are portable, something that would be more portable and just as good would be the Zoom PodTrack P4.
Whoa. I lost my pen. Okay. Zoom
PodTrack P4.
And that would attach to my Samsung Q2.
You could connect up to 4 microphones to this device, but it's probably a little bit bulkier than a TI-89 graphing calculator.
Okay. That might have been something like Zoom was one of those things that he was talking to me about. So yes, I did see one of those. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. And we chose not to get it right now. I just got a little cheap lapel thing that there's a port that sits into my iPhone. So hoping that the 2 of those will at least work for the summer, and then maybe in this fall I can get the new one. So thank you. Hopefully that also helped everyone else and that wasn't repeated too much. But anyway, Chris, I also wanted to ask you if you have heard of the OWL app, OWWLL.
Oh, you've talked about you brought this up on the Discord, right? OWLL.
Discord, yes. Oh my gosh, it's amazing, and we really, really, really need teachers in there as experts. So the idea of OWL is get paid to share your expertise. So what you do is you sign up, and I can, and in the Discord, I think I shared my my referral code.
Yes, you did.
And so anyway, you sign up, you get in there, and when you have a free moment, so you're driving home in your 30 minutes, you could say, "Hey, I'm live on OWL." Somebody calls you, they will pay you your fee for that 10 minutes. It's currently still in beta, so everything's $1, but by the end of June, it's going to be, and you can pick your price on how much you want to get paid for your 10-minute conversation with that person. And you could share a whole lot of fun stuff in 10 minutes time. Yeah. So I'm sorry, but 3rd grade teachers have a really unique a unique gift. High school teachers have a unique gift. Kindergarten teachers each have this unique frame of mind that blows my mind every time. Now, everybody, I'm not a teacher. So so I get amazed at how you guys can focus and get the stuff out of the kids like you do. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to pop up, was to ask you some of those questions about portable podcasting, and then share the OWL app. And if anybody would like my link to OWL to get in, because you have to be in kind of like Clubhouse did before. If you want that, you can send me a DM and I'll share my link with you. So I hope that is inspiring as well, because I'm also trying to figure out how to link Al to do podcasting, kind of like these short little 10-minute with an expert. So I've been thinking about that as well with Al. So it's
Do
sharing.
you?
Hey,
Go ahead.
Eric, can you make sure that I tried to follow you, but I've reached my limit of following, so it denied me the follow. But I looked up the owl and I can't find it, so if you could find a way to
I
share that and in here, and also I'm trying to figure out like how do you in spaces how do you communicate with each other?
Oh, so
That's a good point. This is my first time on here yet, so I'm not sure. But I just followed you, Michael.
Yeah.
And so I will send you a DM when I'm on. And I saw just somebody else sent me something. So I will send it to you. And it is 2 W's and 2 L's. So
there you go.
Oh,
2
and it's
W's and
black
2
and
L.
it's black. The app is black. It has a black background. Yes, Aaron, OWWLL. So and I am part of. There is also a club that you can join, and we have a Zoom call every Thursday night, and that's why I was late, because every Thursday night we have a gathering of people that are using the app, and we're sharing how to new ways to use the app, and it's pretty cool thing. So I'm out. So thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Sherry. And for those who want to know, the website is simply owl.com. And again, it's OWWLL.com. And their slogan is connect, learn, and grow. And as Michael, you mentioned communicating, really it's, when you request to speak, you could talk to anybody. So it's not just talking to me. You guys could talk to each other. And then it's DMs behind the scene and, tweeting while you're in a Twitter space, following people and connecting that way. So really Twitter becomes the back channel to the audio conversation, I think, until they add a feature like a chat room or something. And speaking of chatting, classic Chris transition, Freddie, what's up? Long time, no chat. What's up, Freddie?
Chris, how are you?
I'm doing good. How
I've
you
been
been?
good, bro. Yeah, I've used Spaces before. I've been on other Spaces. There's a really good one that they do kind of every Tuesday. I think it's Hip Hop EDU, which is a cool one to kind of just go into. But like for me, podcasting has always been something that has been kind of on the periphery, and I'm finally thinking about not thinking about, but looking at like put my foot in the water already for this, but specifically, for my students, and to give a voice to the voice, like, for students like English learners or kids like that who are just kind of like developing their skills and being able to provide a platform. So I'm wondering if anybody's ever used it specifically for that purpose, the podcasting, or giving the kids just a space to be able to do that, for those underrepresented groups.
Well, Freddie, what I can share is one of the things that I talked about with the administrators in my district was how do we have a large bilingual population, or even, a lot of kids who come in that speak English yet either. So one of the things that we are working on behind the scenes that we haven't launched is bringing in bilingual Spanish speaking students, create content that is in Spanish and not where it's, typically with announcements or flyers where, it's in English first and then it's in Spanish. So I don't want it to necessarily be a mix where one language comes first before the other. I want to create original Spanish content for the populations that and those students that need it. And like you're saying, they're not well represented. So it is something, at least in my situation, I'm very aware of and sensitive to, and certainly want to make a positive experience for the entire student body.
Yeah, that's very cool and very interesting. If anybody knows of anybody who does, do that for those populations, that would be really cool, because I would like to pilot something, and to get that up. And then when it comes to podcasting, I think, I look at what Chris does, and that's about as much as I know. So I really have to kind of get my leg into that. So this has been a really good opportunity for me just to kind of sit down and listen to what are some of the things that that different people are doing. So thank you, everybody. And I'm out.
Cool. Freddie, did you have any questions before you go? Did you want to know anything specific?
Just I know I kind of like what you guys are doing, like a student led type of effort to do that out of school, working with a teacher. So I'm going to be in a new school next year, so it's going to be interesting to see. And I'm still getting just to learn the lay of the land there. So
Okay.
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see like what technology programs do they have, and do they have the opportunity to provide that space for our kids? And if they don't, then like how would I get that big question?
Right. Well, then reach out to me, and I'll give you some great recommendations of things you can get started with for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
I was going to say something, and then it escaped me. Oh, the motto or the slogan that I use for this, we call it the Zebra Podcast Network. The mascot for my high school is the Zebras, and the slogan is "Your School, Your Voice." So that's what we brand it as. And because I'm working with high school students, and I brought this up in the last episode of House of EdTech, was, well, how do you trust high school kids with a microphone and what they're going to say? I'll be honest, my only rule with them really is don't curse. Other than that, they can talk about whatever they're comfortable talking about, and I'm nurturing and encouraging them to talk about the things that are important to them. In January and February, there were a number of fights that were happening, in the school amongst some different groups of students. And my kids who are sophomores came in and they were talking about, like, what are we doing in our school? Like, how can we make the school better? And they were having these authentic conversations, which was really nice to see. They worked to get the principal to come in and be a guest, and they wanted to get to know the principal because it is his first year in our building, and really wanted to humanize him and get the student population to see him a little differently than just an authoritarian principal administrator figure, which went a long way for the students and some of the staff as well. But that's really it in terms of what rules do I have in place for these kids that are high school age. When we had the unfortunate events, in Texas, my students came in and, we talked before we went live about the fact that we needed to talk about it. And I shared my thoughts and I let them share their thoughts. And, we had, positive discussion, reflection, and it wasn't as fluffy or as light or as quote unquote fun as we normally do a show, which we try to have. But they put their thoughts out there, and actually the young man who I talked about, who does the weather for us, he came in today and he said, not on the show, but I have my first job interview tomorrow. And both me and the other student who hosts, we were like, well, when you go on the interview, it's kind of like you're hosting the show, except you've had these conversations with teachers you don't know, you're comfortable with the microphone, you don't need to be as nervous as you're making it out to be. And he felt more confident. He was like, yeah, you know what? Being on this show has helped me better communicate and kind of talk and keep a conversation going. So something like this is helpful on so many levels for students.
Yeah, very cool. I like that one rule: just don't curse. I think it makes a lot of sense. And when you do give kids that opportunity, especially at the high school level, they'll surprise you. They'll really surprise you. Especially, do you predetermine topics ahead of time, or you just kind of let them? They come with you to plan, and then they kind of go free reign.
It's a lot of free reign. The only thing we really have planned that we do now is we have these theme days. So Monday is this Maestro Monday. Tuesday we call it Talk About It Tuesday, where I might throw out a question, or they might say before we go live, hey, there's something I want to talk about today. Wednesday, we call it Would You Rather Wednesday, and we kind of just go round table with some ridiculous would you rather scenarios. Thursday is Thoughtful Thursday, where I have another teacher who just volunteered to give me these deep thoughts, a la Jack Handy from Saturday Night Live back in the day. And then Friday is we do Fun Fact Friday, and we just go around the horn and we just share fun facts about whatever. Sometimes we theme it if we plan it at 7:00 in the morning, or it'll just be a whole lot of random fun facts that we all find interesting based on our personalities. And I participate, and sometimes I don't. I just let the two or three of them kind of do their thing.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks for that, Chris. Again, when I'll reach out to you when I figure out what's going on over there. But I really look forward to it because I really want to be able to, do something like this in my school.
Nice. And you will do it for sure. I know you will.
Thank you, bro.
All right. Some new faces I see. My friend Alex. Fun fact, my first guest on the House of EdTech podcast. He was in episode 2, and I should probably have him back again. He was a guest another time, but Alex Rosenwald in the house. Ryan is here. I know Ryan. Doug, your avatar has been here for a little while. Lois Alston, long time no see. And Alex, we've got 2 Alexes here. We got a room full of Alex. So if you have questions about podcasting in your school or just want to say, hey, please hit the request button and, I'm here. We've been here since 9 o'clock and just trying to show the Twitter space love to education, which I think is way more powerful than a Twitter chat. So I would love to see some evolution by teachers on Twitter. So there's that. And then talking podcasting. And we got a request. We got Doug on the line. I recognize Doug. We've talked before. What's up, Doug?
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Doug, you're live. Hey, what's up?
What's cooking?
Me, because it's hot in New Jersey.
Listen, as a guy who's in South Florida most of the year, well, all of the year except for when traveling, I get it. I get hot.
You get hot more often.
Yeah, it doesn't really stop, but that's all right. Yeah, just listening in. I know you and I have connected before about podcasting and education and all the things. My role about 6 months ago, about 10 months ago, to focus more on esports and education, but still creating a ton of content, podcasts, shows, webinars, all the things. So just figured I'd come in and listen and learn from the awesome people who stopped by.
Nice. What is a takeaway so far? Because you were listening for a bit. What's something you're going to walk away with?
Yeah, I mean, so actually, it's funny when we were talking about StreamYard. I did my first time using the paid version, so with all the bells and whistles, a few weeks ago, and so while you guys were talking about it, sort of reminded me to go back in there and just look through the different features. And so something that I was a part of with Logitech and Unreal Engine today, that they were running just via Zoom, I'm going to play back as quote unquote live tomorrow on StreamYard. So
nice.
Go to all the platforms and, rather than just post it up on YouTube, that way it has, like when things get posted on LinkedIn, they get more eyeballs on them. So that's the plan.
That's actually one of the nice paid features of StreamYard is if you have something that's already recorded and you run it back, it's as if it's live for people who tune in, but then you as the host or behind the scenes, rather than focusing on creating the content live, you can better interact in the different chats and with the comments. So certainly a nice feature.
Yep. So that's the plan.
Nice. Anything else?
No, I'll say that Erin, I think, mentioned something about esports earlier as well. And I'm somebody in her institution, Camus. I'm going to... Camus. We're both on the ISTE esports committee. So
awesome.
We're working together for ISTE down in New Orleans in 3-4 weeks.
Yep, I will be there as well.
All right, be there with bells on.
Absolutely.
Nice. And I imagine you both know Chris Aviles?
I do indeed.
My man, another proud Jersey boy.
Yes, he is.
Awesome.
Yeah, we've got a pretty good footprint in New Jersey as well, because one of the companies we use to do a lot of the esports labs, Horizon AVL, is also out of there. So
yes.
Yep. So we just finished one at Kane University, Camden College, and a bunch of other places.
Nice. Awesome.
Yep.
I'm glad to hear you're doing good stuff.
There you go. Just trying to keep the wheels turning, man.
That's all we can do at this point, right? Keep the wheels moving.
Yep. Build experiences for kids so they can learn and use those skills as they go.
Nice. All right. Let me pull Alex. New Alex to me has been waiting patiently. Mr. Isaacs. How you doing? Welcome aboard.
I'm doing well. Great to be here. I'm also a Jersey boy, so myself and Lois, we're both in central New Jersey, so we're feeling the heat right now as well, the mugginess. But She and I are thinking about kind of delving into the whole spaces type game. We've done somewhere a big part of Sunday Sparks each week when Georgina's doing it. I had two main questions. The first one that I have is, what do you feel is like the most appropriate amount of co-hosts to start up if you're starting a new Twitter space?
For a Twitter space, I started with one. Well, that was me. I guess it depends on the topic and how you want the space to go, right? I mean, if you have, a planning team, you have 2 or 3 people, certainly, really, you could start with 11 people, and a whole lot of people could be listening in. It depends on the topic and the rapport you have and how comfortable you are with the people you want to host it with. So it depends on the type of space you want to create.
All right, I can appreciate that. I'll definitely keep that in mind. And the other thing that I've been thinking about is, there's so many different PLN chats going on right now, and I've been a part of many of them. And what would you think about kind of taking the traditional PLN chat and kind of morphing that into a Twitter space? Do you think that kind of transition could take place, and do you think that would be an effective way to kind of go about starting one up?
I want that to take place. I mean, Twitter chats and the idea of the hashtag, that's been around, since probably 2008, 2000. The small percentage of teachers who are on Twitter and are connected educators kind of got into this whole thing. I would love to see it evolve. I thought, back in 2012, 2013, 14, there was a website called blab.im that gave this live experience where people could kind of call in, and I just think it makes for a better connection. And audio is very powerful, video is extremely powerful, but I think any Twitter chat should add this to it, where you can be tweeting while you do this. I can be interacting on my phone right now and sending tweets out and asking questions, but it's also an opportunity to literally hear people's voices and really connect with other people around whatever topic your Twitter chat or conversation might be about. So I would love to. I desperately want to see Twitter chats add this component, or conversations that have nothing to do with A1 and Q2 and adding, questions and answers, where it's Twitter spaces and these conversations are happening.
Yeah, I really like that idea, and I'll be honest. I actually I know that Jamie Ellman stopped the Juice Chat at the moment. It's kind of on hiatus right now. Each Saturday, I was a big part of that. I hosted once with Lois. It was a real pleasure. I know Tish has been the host before. I was a big fan of her being there. I applied to get the new gig to be the person who kind of runs the Juice Chat. I haven't heard back, so I don't know what my chances are, but I feel like if I do get that opportunity, I feel like I would want to make it into a Twitter space. I don't know how a Saturday early morning would go, which is the traditional time slot it was, but I just like the idea to really have something more innovative than the traditional, as you just said, A1, Q1. I just think it would be a great opportunity to make something that's really consistent and something that's a little bit more memorable.
I got to be honest. If there's a conversation you want to have, just start hosting spaces. Call it the Juice Space. I don't know what you apply to. It doesn't ring a bell for me, but if there's something you want to do, just go and do it. Start having the conversation.
Yeah, it's getting to that point. I always said to myself, I've got to reach a certain level of people following me would feel that level of confidence. I still have that level of, being a little bit anxious to putting myself out there and speaking extemporaneously. So, Lois and I, we're going to think about it over the summer, maybe start something up, and we hope we'll have the support of our PLN and that we'll have some good comments.
I'm going to push back because that's me, but I would say you and Lois, I wouldn't wait till the fall. I would just start. You'll build that community. I wouldn't worry about how many followers you have. I mean, that number ultimately means nothing. I mean, so it's about promoting it. I mean, if I tried to do this space with zero promotion and I went live at 9:00 and didn't plan it or promote it, maybe a couple of people would come in. But I promoted in advance. I mentioned it on the episode of my podcast that I was going to be here on this date at this time. Plan it, do it. I would say go for it. Do not wait.
I appreciate that, and I'm definitely going to give it a shot, Chris. Thank you.
And let me know when it is, and I will be there to support if I'm not on a cruise ship, which I might be this summer.
That's very kind of you.
Does Lois? Oh, wait, hold on. We got another request. Okay, Ryan is. Wait, real quick. Alex, did you have anything else, or I'm going to also bring up Ryan?
No, I think that's okay. I see a lot of people want to speak, so no problem. And I appreciate the advice. Thank you so much.
You got it. Oh, before I bring up Ryan, Tisha, are you way or your hand is up? I don't know.
Well, I just want to reaffirm what you said to Alex. I think that you just need to dive in. I know Chris and I met each other when Clubhouse was new. That was last January, so January of 2021. And literally, if you'll just dive in and start the room and create a topic that you're passionate about, like Chris has today. And I know you and Lois have so many different topics of expertise that I think just start and see what happens. And the truth is, it will evolve. Right? That we talked about in the very, very beginning of Chris's Twitter space is to just do it. Just take the risk. Don't overthink it. Don't expect perfection. Just get in there and start sharing your greatness. And I just want to say that again, because you all have great knowledge and expertise in different areas and different niches. So sure that you are utilizing that. And we will all be there. So that's what I wanted to also say. Chris may be on the cruise ship. I may be, I don't know, in Hawaii, I wish, but I would join no matter the day or time.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Ryan, long time no chat. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay for having a tooth pulled today.
Hey, you're way to gut it out for me. I appreciate that. Thanks for showing up.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of hear what was happening. I have all these little dreams, and part of it's esports, part of it's podcasting and such, but I just wanted to kind of see what this was all about and check in a little bit while I had a few moments of not crazy drugged up.
Appreciate it. Well, you've been here for a while, so did you have a question? Is something you wanted to add? Because I know you're doing a lot. You got music, you're doing technology, and I know you do a lot in your district.
No questions at the moment. I'm just kind of sorting through some things, and I just need to get started with something.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. I see Stephanie. She's one of our awesome supporters of Podcast PD. While this is not an official Podcast PD event, thank you, Stephanie, for being here. It's great to see you. Tim Belmont in the house. What is up, Tim? And I don't know what more I have to say.
Hey, Chris.
Erin, go ahead.
I just shared a tweet. You were named in the House of EdTech podcast was named in one of the educational podcasts that provide teachers with quality professional development.
Was that from Nick and Eric from We Got Tech Ed?
Tech Ed?
Yes, love those guys.
Yep. So I just retweeted that. Just heads up.
Well, why, thank you. I appreciate
congratulations.
That. Yeah. It's always nice when people recognize you.
Yeah.
But they're good dudes. And there's a lot. I looked at that list earlier today. There are so many great education podcasts out there. I mean, whether it's EdTech, instructional strategies, just general education conversations, so much out there. So much. Just sample it all. And I'm working on reaching stuff.
Hey, I have a question. It's Sherry again.
What's up, Sherry?
Have you ever been, or were you this year, to PodFest?
One of the negatives of being a classroom teacher is you don't get to go anywhere fun because you have to teach. So I was not able to go to PodFest. I have a number of podcasty friends who were in Orlando recently. I did back in 2018 go to Podcast Movement when it was in Philadelphia, which was a blast because it scratched my itch for being a podcaster, but not any of the people not anybody in education, from doing ed camps or, going to education conferences. But, if you're into content creation and podcasting, Podcast Movement should be a bucket list item. PodFest should be a bucket list item. There's a lot of great podcast events out there, and so many podcasts about podcasting that people can listen to and learn from for sure as well. Were you at PodFest?
I was not, because I'm going down to Florida in this month. So I didn't want to have them go down there back to back. Do you know if there is a conference for educators that really focuses on podcasting?
I'll be honest, I haven't created it yet. But
well,
I certainly think
let's go for it.
I mean, something, if anybody here doesn't know, I am the founder of the Education Podcast Network, which you can find at edupodcastnetwork.com. And that is my community and connection with me, who are educators who create their podcasts. And we have been talking behind the scenes. And since I'm the quote unquote boss, I can talk about it publicly. We are trying to plan some type of summit that will probably be virtual to start until it becomes something bigger than the internet can handle. And certainly there will be a podcast creator component to it. But to answer your question, there is no specific conference that talks about podcasts for educators. The closest I came was, I think I was at ISTE in maybe 2015 or 2016. One of the last times it was in Philly. And there was going to be some sort of podcast session, and it fell on its face. It was markety, it was a pitch, it was not a session on education podcasting. And I wound up sitting on the floor in a hallway with Jennifer Gonzalez, Angela Watson, and just a number of other, Dan Krynis, bunch of education podcasters. And we sat on the floor for an hour and a half, swapping stories about podcasting and gear and the ins, the outs, what we do, what we wish we could do. And we were just learning from each other. And that was the best session that I went to that was education podcast related.
Thank you.
And it wasn't even a real session. It was just people sitting on the floor.
Well, networking always works the best anyway. So thank you for that feedback. I look forward to learning more about a education summit. So thank you.
And I look forward to bringing you that information as soon as we figure it out.
Well, now that you made it public, you better do it.
I got to put my money where my mouth is. Always gets me into trouble. Oh, well, it's worth it. It will be worth it. Well, I have been here definitely for an hour and 10 minutes. And I want to thank everybody for coming out. If you're not following the people who are here, make sure you do that. And if you're not a follower or a subscriber to the House of EdTech podcast, I would invite you to check it out. My most recent episode 201, was about podcast clubs and podcast networks in your district or your school. And also part of that episode was talking about the tremendous value we can get on Twitter Spaces as educators. So you can check all that out at chrisnesi.com, and would love for you to subscribe and check out the podcast if you're not already, and be on the lookout for more Twitter Spaces, because this is just too easy to get on here and do. So I appreciate everybody who came out. If you just came in here, I'm sorry, we're about to shut it down. So Becky, I'm going to follow you back so we're connected. Moshe, I'm going to follow you back. I don't know why I wasn't following you, because we've talked on Clubhouse before. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm not going to leave without Lois getting a chance to speak. So good evening, Lois. You will be our last caller of the evening. What's up? The microphone button's in the lower left hand. There you go.
Oh, no, you know what happened? I'm so sorry. I was cutting in and out based on probably where I'm at right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but thank you. And first, I just want to say to Chris and Tisha, thank you for your positive words when Alex was speaking, and really for encouraging us to kind of dive in. And I am all for that. And I think we are probably soon. And Chris, real quick, I think you possibly spoke years ago. I work for Long Branch School District when we used to do student leadership committee meetings with students district with Dr. Salvatore. And I do remember you talking about podcasting with students.
I did
in
it
our
once
district.
virtually, and I did it once in person.
Yes.
I remember. Yes.
Yep. So I just to bring that up because actually today, now that you're a new superintendent for the last year, one of the people that work at central office, he works for the DAI department. I was to him, and they really want to get a podcast started in our district, and I think they're just trying to figure out ways what's going to be the best way and route to go. And I know that I came on pretty late, so I'm not sure exactly if there is anything in particular that was talked about that is kind of that go-to, whether it's a platform or app that you're using and that you suggest.
Well, Lois, the benefit is I still pass Long Branch on my way home 5 days a week. So
Oh,
why don't
okay.
we connect and I will just stop by and we can just have a conversation.
Oh, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Yes. So we'll do that. I'll pitch any superintendent, your tech people.
Okay.
I got certainly a list of recommendations of things that could be considered for all price points.
Okay.
So we just have to set it up. So let's make it happen.
Yeah, that would be great because we do have, I believe, all the items and material that would be needed equipment wise. I think
Okay.
it's just a matter of what way to go about it, but we do have quite a bit as far as equipment.
All right. Let's just do it. Let's
All right.
figure it
Thank
out.
you, Chris.
You got it. So with that, I am going to, and I'm sorry, Anthony, we're going to be ending the space. We've been here for a little over an hour. Please feel free to connect and be on the lookout or the listen out, whatever you want to say, for more Twitter spaces from me and the House of EdTech going forward. This was a lot of fun, and it puts gas in my tank that people showed up. So even if it was just me and Tisha, it would have been a good time. And it was great to talk to Erin. And now the Fonz is here late, but we're getting ready to turn it off and the Fonz left. So there you go. So we're going to shut this down. And don't be surprised if in a future episode this summer, this space is played back because I did record it, which is a feature of Twitter Spaces. And since nobody cursed and we didn't talk about anything inappropriate, I feel comfortable using this content to certainly help others. So you might be on a future episode of the House of EdTech, and I want to thank everybody for coming out. Have a great night, and remember, using technology isn't difficult. Just give it a try. Thank you for listening to this episode of the House of EdTech podcast. If you're not subscribed or you're not following the podcast, I hope you will continue to make this show a part of your anytime, anywhere professional development. Thanks again to Derek Larson for coming to my house, and thanks to everybody who came out on that June 2nd for that Twitter space. Again, come on out on June 23rd, 2022, 10 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to talk about coding in the classroom, or at least that's where I'm going to start the conversation. Again, who knows what's going to happen when you click live on Twitter Space, but I hope that you'll join me. And let's keep the conversation going. Again, share your thoughts on this episode or any episode at any time. You can leave a comment on the show notes for this one. Go to chrisnesi.com/203. Or if you'd like to send me an email, go to chrisnesi.com/feedback. And I love to get voicemails. So if you're traveling, you're on vacation, whatever the case may be, send me a voicemail. Let me know where you are, what you're doing, and how things are going with you. Go to chrisnesi.com/voicemail. If you enjoy the House of EdTech, and let's be honest with ourselves, if you're listening this far into the episode, you probably enjoy the House of EdTech podcast. Do me a favor, tell somebody else about the show. Word of mouth is the best way to share a podcast that you love, and you love the House of EdTech. You can also become an awesome supporter. I'm very thankful for the ongoing financial support from my awesome supporters. They are Dan Gallagher, Peggy George, Jeff Herb, Mike Messner, Matt Miller, JP Presevento, Patty Reefus, Lori Simpson, and Kyle Wilcox. The Awesome Supporter Program is powered by Patreon.com. That allows a consumer of content like you to support a creator of content like me. If you're getting value from the podcast, you too can become an awesome supporter by visiting chrisnesi.com/awesome. The next episode of the House of EdTech is going to be episode 204, and that's going to come your way on July 3rd, 2022. Summer will be in full swing. Until next time, thank you for learning with me, and remember two things. Come out on June 23rd for a Twitter space about coding and who knows what else. And also, using technology isn't difficult. Just give it a try.